Welcome to HeartMind-ify. Before we start the show, just a reminder to share, rate, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. And please give us a 5-star rating. It helps us beat the big tech algorithms.
I'm John Izzy. Change can be difficult for a lot of us, but when we understand what makes us tick, we develop a better understanding of who we are and begin a journey of discovering our best self. Join me for a free session at johnizzy.com.
And I'm Kim Cordy, creator of the Emotion Chef Framework, an emotion management tool. Thoughts drive emotions, and emotions drive thoughts, but it's our emotions that drive our decisions and behaviors. Find out more at kimcordy.com.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Knowing each other personally and socially for the past 10 years, Kim and John have joined forces, bringing years of experience and training, providing a platform for growth and personal development, along with a little humor. John is the heart, Kim is the mind, and together they are HeartMind-ify. Well, hello, everyone, and hello, Kim. How is everything in California?
Hello, John. We are actually have an air quality index of 20 today.
Wow, that's crazy.
I saw bits of blue sky yesterday for the first time in over 2 weeks. I was ecstatic. And then last night, I was able to open up the windows in the house to let cool in at night. And nice. I saw stars. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
That's awesome. Well, it was 45 degrees here this morning, so it was a little chilly. And we are now starting to see the effects on the East Coast from the smoke out west. So they reported last night on the news that the sunset was blurred because of the smoke. It's crazy how it's not your fault. I mean, it's just crazy how the jet stream just works. And it's like, it just brings it right on in.
Well, actually, the word is that the smoke from Portland is coming back around and stream will take it up to us. So we have it now. We might not have it in a few days, this air quality, but you know what? I'm going to take it. And it's amazing how grateful you are for something when you don't have it.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure it's lifted everybody's spirits a little bit and, good stuff. I was listening to the news. I think it was last night. What was last night? Tuesday? No, it was Monday night because I refrain from watching the news every day, as we've discussed in the past. So yes. I did watch it. Yes, I did watch it last night. And they had a report on one of the stations from a doctor that said that COVID is really contagious during this time with all the fires because the air quality is so bad that it's almost like it doesn't have a chance to release itself into the atmosphere and it keeps it closer. It's almost like it traps it in, which is kind of scary for people in highly populated areas that are suffering from these fires. So much love to people out there. I mean, guys, hunker down and do what you need to do. And I just, hope for the best because it's a little scary, right?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, California's numbers have improved dramatically. And I don't know if it's because everyone's for COVID. Maybe it's because everyone was staying in. I mean, who wanted to go out in that nightmare? Air quality was awful.
Yeah. I never even thought of that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense. My neighbor next door told me today that a coworker of hers, she just retired in June, but a coworker of hers has been in the hospital since Friday with
COVID.
Oh, yeah. So it's just, now I know everybody knows of someone probably, if not a family member, at least now everybody knows of someone, and it's kind of, it kind of hits home a little bit, so.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. So, anyway, Kim and I have talked a lot about various topics that come up that deal with the heart and mind or have a response from the heart and mind and the gut as well. And one of the things that Kim and I don't talk about much is about ourselves and what we do. You know, we take these big issues or these topics that we think of during the week, and we find one that we think that we have the most conversation over, and then we find one that we think that you guys would enjoy or listen to. And we were talking the other day, we never really talk about ourselves and what we actually do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself today. Not that I really love doing that, but I think it's but I think it's good that the listeners find out what it is that you, Kim, and I do for a living. How's that sound?
I think that sounds great.
Good. So most people they know the basics. You guys know Kim does a lot of online teaching and classes, and I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. And when we're talking about coaching, you know, it's a buzzword today in a lot of ways, and people immediately think of Tony Robbins or people that have these huge coaching careers. And, you know, people get it confused with counseling or therapy, and it is totally different. Similarities run through them both, but it is different. And coaching pretty much deals with the now, right? Where are you in your life now? And how do you move forward from the now? But coaching has also various disciplines like business coaches, financial coaches, personal life coaches, and so on. But the discipline where my focus has been lately is I work with men who have been sexually betrayed as boys. I have had a lot of experience in this area from the time when I was a boy and then throughout my adult life, working with various groups where their focus is mainly on abuse, whether they are adults or children. So I was online, I don't know, I guess it was about 6 or 7 months ago, and I noticed that there were a lot of groups for women who have been sexually betrayed, but there weren't many groups specifically geared towards men. However, you do find men in these open forum groups, and that's good because it provides a forum where people can post information on various topics that are related to the abuse. There aren't specific or detailed as much unless it's a private group, because a lot of people won't share their stories in detail in the open forum. I decided to start a private Facebook group that is geared to only men who have been sexually betrayed. And the group is called Beyond Betrayal. So if you go to Facebook groups and search for Beyond Betrayal, you'll find the group. Once you request to join, you will be asked a few questions. These aren't very personal, but I want to maintain an open and safe environment for men to share their stories without wondering if it's going to be all over the internet. And there's only so much control that I have because I don't own the platform, but I am doing my best to set some standards that are safe and non-judgmental and absolutely private to the people in the group. This gives individual members permission to be vulnerable, if they wish, and to participate in group discussions that might touch on sensitive material. This is a really good group, and right now it's kind of small. It's around 10 or 12, but I'm looking forward to the group to grow in size. So besides the private Facebook group, what else do? I also do one-on-one coaching with men who have been sexually betrayed. I have other clients that have not been abused, but my main focus right now has been around abuse. So anyway, Kim, that's a little bit of what I do. Do you have any questions for me?
John,
Yes.
first I want to say, yes, John. First I want to say is how great of a work I think that you're doing. I was sexually abused when I was a young girl. You call it betrayed, and it is betrayal for sure. And it's been a long road, and it was a family friend. It takes a toll on you. especially at certain times in your life. And as you are trying to move past it, having support is really, really important. And having someone to help you move past it is really, really important. And the work that you do and have done with kids, because let's not forget the work you do presently
Oh,
with,
yeah.
yeah, with young kids, it's critical because the sooner that you can get past it, the better. But there wasn't that kind of support, and people didn't talk about it as freely as they do now, so that there's not as much shame that is associated with it. So I really want to first and foremost say, yay for you. And I also used to think, oh, this just happens to girls. It never happens to boys. It's only
Exactly.
girls. No, yeah, I was wrong. It does happen to boys, and it happens to young boys and young adults, from men and women. I was shocked when I heard that a woman abused a young boy, but it happens. So I that's why I'm saying you're making an awareness, reaching out to people. That's important. It's huge, the work that you're doing. So I'd like to ask you a little bit, because I know you did a series that I was following, with about some myths or steps. Do you want to remind us about the campaign you just did? It was on LinkedIn, it was on Facebook, it was on Instagram. So if anyone wanted to find it, they could easily find what you posted.
I would love to talk about the campaign. But before I do that, Kim, I wanted to touch on something that you had said earlier that I think is very important. And that is abuse most definitely happens with girls as well as boys. In fact, 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys are abused before the age of 18. And not to spend a lot of time on statistics here, but now we are seeing that 1 in 5 children are solicited sexually while on the internet before the age of 18. These numbers are huge. And there are similar issues that girls and boys share, but there are also many differences. And one of the things that men who have been abused suffered from is that we live in a society, and Kim, you and I have talked about this before, but we live in a society where masculinity is dominant. Just look at the big businesses and the amount of men in leadership roles like CEOs. I'm loving the fact that more women are in these roles today, but we have such a long way to go. And with men in those roles and the heightened masculinity, what comes with it is a win at no cost mentality and a sense of heightened masculinity that defines men and is instilled in young boys from a very early age. So when boys are violated sexually, it causes a laundry list of issues that boys have to deal with, because now they are less of a man in some cases. Instances where women abuse younger boys or older teens, it can seem like a badge of honor. But that's just a lie. Another issue that comes up is homosexuality and heterosexuality. If a boy is forced to have sex or is abused and they tell anyone, they can be pegged as homosexual for wanting it. And that's a huge problem for a couple of reasons. Look, telling a boy that he is gay because of the abuse is horrible in itself, especially if he's not gay. But to a gay boy, it can be extremely dangerous because it suggests that they invited the abuse. Again, a big old myth. These are boys used for sexual pleasure by an adult or a violent sexual encounter to achieve power over the abused. But what we forget is that these men were not men at all. They were children. And to treat them as if they were an adult is abuse in and of itself. So what we need to do is take the masculinity out of the equation and deal with the true fact that these are boys being abused. I just wanted to make that point before I moved on. So anyway, to answer your question about the social media campaign, it was a series where I posted one of 7 myths daily around sexual abuse of boys. There's a great website called 1in6.org, and it's the number 1 and number 6. So it's 1in6.org. And they had a whole discussion around myths. For instance, the myth that boys can't be sexually used or abused, or the myth that if a boy experienced sexual arousal during abuse, he wanted it. And other myths like boys that have been abused by other males must have attracted the abuse because they are gay. So, as I posted the myths on social media, I monitored the comments on the different platforms and engaged in various discussions. In fact, I had quite a few men reach out to me that identified with one of the 7 myths. It was extremely successful, and that's what prompted the private Facebook group. And part of what men who have been abused have to deal with is to deal with the myths surrounding that abuse. So by detailing those myths, it influenced a lot of discussion. I think it also provided some education with the larger community who hasn't experienced abuse personally by informing them that these are boys that are being abused, and this could be your son or grandson, so get educated. We are also seeing an uptick in human trafficking, and boys are being forced into this as well and used for prostitution. So it's a real issue, and it's one that needs awareness to the larger community and in an environment where men can share and talk through their own stories. You know, boys grow up to be men, and some choose to get married and have children, whether they are homosexual or heterosexual. And the issues of abuse can, if not addressed, have a negative impact on their adult behavior. So giving men a platform where they feel safe to talk about their behaviors is critical for a lot of men. And I'm just happy that I can be available to facilitate these discussions. I want to say one more thing before I move on. There are many organizations available today for boys who have been abused. One of those is Bikers Against Child Abuse. This is a great organization that I'm involved with where their main mission is to empower children to not be afraid in the world in which they live. Another organization that does a lot of good work is RAIN. So there are more and more resources now for young children to find help. But for men, especially men who don't want to talk about it or were afraid to talk about it, there is little in a way of support. So through my coaching and through the private Facebook group, men now have a place to go that is non-judgmental and safe to discuss issues that may be holding them back by providing a place that hopefully can not only be a resource, but provide support and give men the permission for growth and change if that is needed.
I was thinking as you were talking, it used to be who I was. And now it's just something that happened. It's kind of like, yeah, I had a car accident. When you can make that shift, it's gigantic. Because it was like I had a scarlet, letter on me. And being able to get past that is ginormous. You're always going to carry a certain amount of scars. It's just inevitable, but it's a matter of recognizing them. The scars show, or maybe get a little pricked, so to say, so that you notice them. Otherwise, the scars are there, but you're not looking at them all the time. You don't notice them. And it's a good place. It's a very freeing place. And I just want to go back to the fact is that you've done this work and you have been devoted to this kind of work for a very long time. I've always been very impressed. So for people who are listening, John and I go back over 10 years now. And the whole time I've known him, this has been a part of who he is, that he helps kids. But it's not just kids, it's adults too. But the organization that he works with is very much focused on children. So you bring a lot to your practice. You bring a lot of experience, and just yourself, who is filled with wisdom and compassion and kindness and no judgment. And there's I sound like I'm making a commercial for you,
I
don't
know,
I?
really. Thanks.
But you do. This is why people are attracted to you. And I've been saying this forever. It's like if all you have to do is just be out there and speaking and talking, and then people are going to be drawn in. Just this free flowing kind of conversation, it draws people in. So I'm really, really glad that you have focused in this direction with your coaching the way that you have. I know you have other clients too, but this is I think a real need that you have the qualifications to help someone. And
Oh,
so
well, thanks for
I'm
that.
happy.
And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Kim. I really appreciate that. That's awful nice for you to say. I'm not sure if everybody that knows me would say the same thing, but whatever is nice. I like it.
Well,
Thanks.
hey, it's how I know you, right?
Right. There you go.
It's my experience.
Yeah. And, I look back at different things that clients have said to me and different things that I have read on male sexuality and, specifically boys that have been sexually betrayed. And, one of the things that is difficult and probably the thing that stuck out to me the most to get involved in this is this notion of survivor. I was talking with someone once and I said to them, I said, "How you doing?" And he said, "I am so sick and tired of people calling me a survivor. I haven't survived shit." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I'm 46 years old. I've been divorced 4 times. My kids don't talk to me. My behavior in the world sucks. I haven't survived anything. And it's all because of that son of a bitch." And I was like, wow, you have a really good point there. And I think we tend to, and Kim and I have talked about this, we tend to put people into categories because it's comfortable for us to put people in their own groups. That what it does is it can have a great impact on a person who has suffered anything, in this case, abuse, because once we can fit them in that category, then we're done. He's done. He's a survivor. He's good to go. And in reality that's not the case. Reality is that abuse can carry on throughout adulthood and often does and have huge impact on people. So that was one of the reasons why I'm so devoted to this type of work, because these are real men who are loving and generous and compassionate and have lived a good life, but just struggle like everyone else. They have their own struggles. Their struggles are around sexuality or around the abuse. And it's no different than anybody else's. It's unique. And it has its own set of circumstances that they have to work through. But it's like you said, once they get to that point where it's like, wow, wait a minute, I can live again. This is awesome. It's just an amazing thing to witness. And it truly is
Yeah.
amazing.
If you think about a cancer survivor, it's someone who's now clean, cancer free, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If, and the being free of the effects of sexual abuse, childhood sexual abuse is, or as you call it, betrayal. It's not that easy to define. For me, I have defined it because for me, a survivorship means it's not how I identify. It's just something that happened. And I think it's unique to everyone. So I think if you can say, I have survived it, it's as long as you give yourself that label, then you're telling the world, I have moved past this experience to a point where I have control over my life in a fashion that I'm satisfied with. That sounds like a lot of words, but it's really true. And I know I would never have been able to get to this point if it weren't for therapy, but
Yep.
also having friends who had been through the same. And I can think of a couple. One, her name was Julie McCarthy. She was amazing, and I don't even think we're not even in contact anymore. But I don't know if she knows how amazing she was for me, and a few other people. who were just super instrumental. Julie just comes to mind because it was in the beginning when I didn't even recognize it as abuse or betrayal. It's kind of funny how the mind deals with things. So that kind of support, the support you're offering, is critical in my viewpoint, and I think in the viewpoint of many, for making that step past it. And you think I've talked about this before, there's a term, it's called effective forecasting.
Mm-hmm.
And you think you are going to have a horrible experience if you talk about it. And you think, if I join this group, if I talk to John, if I share with people, it's going to be worse. You're forecasting it and you don't even know. And yet, pretty much everybody who shares can get past it. I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of people, that's the reason that they have talk therapy. Getting it out helps you get relief. So if you are listening to this and your effective forecasting is saying, oh, this is too scary, this is too much, most often our effective forecasting is wrong. So you may want to just consider it. It doesn't hurt to dip the toe in. Just check out your group or another group, right?
No, not at all. And one of the things that Kim and I have talked about in the in other podcasts is taking that mental inventory of your day. And once you begin to do that, you'll begin to uncover various patterns and various behaviors that never seem to go away. And then once you look at those behaviors and start to realize, well, where is that coming from? A person that's been abused might know exactly where that came from, but in that act of abuse, so many things happen that behavior might not be a result from the abuse, but it may be a result from the way you were dealing with it back then. And this was a defense mechanism that you put in place to deal with the future. So as you discover those behaviors, as you discover the way that you respond to things, a lot of times it opens up some very revealing information about you that you might need to seek out a coach or a counselor if you need to talk through those issues, because our psyche hides a lot of things from us to protect us, right? And once we begin to understand a certain behavior and to look at the reason for the behavior, we might reveal some things that might be uncomfortable and unsure in how to deal with. So in that case, looking for a coach to help you through those moments in your life can be very helpful and beneficial, not only for you, but for those around you. Just keep that in mind.
Well, that was interesting, John. Thanks for sharing about what you do. I think that if just one person hears this and is able to take a step in a direction that is going to be beneficial for them, that is great stuff. I figure one is worth it all.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. So anyway, everyone, thanks for listening. Kim, it's great talking to you again.
John, great talking to you too.
All right, everyone. Have a great week.
Yes, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
New shows are available every Saturday right here on HeartMind-ify.podbean.com or wherever you listen. Kim and I would like to thank each and every one of you for allowing us to be a small part of your life. Be kind to yourself and remember, our hearts tell the story, but our mind is the conductor.